You've been taught that love is strength, that to care is to be human, that loyalty is the highest virtue. You've been told that if you open your heart, if you love without conditions, if you make yourself vulnerable, you'll be rewarded. That devotion builds trust. That affection will always be returned. But that's the lie. The beautifully wrapped illusion designed to keep you docile, predictable, and harmless. Because according to Machiavelli, love is the most seductive weakness you will ever embrace. It blinds you to reality. It softens your defenses. It makes you easy to control. In the cold architecture of power, love isn't an asset. It's the bait. The first step in your undoing. Because in a world ruled by strategy, not sentiment, those who lead with love are the first to fall. The ruler who believes that loyalty is automatic, that affection will shield him from betrayal, is the ruler who wakes up to find the knife in his back. Those who learn to detach, to see love as a tool rather than a truth, are the ones who survive. And the ones who win. Love is the lever your enemies will use to pry open your mind. It is the window you leave unguarded because you think it's sacred. But there is nothing sacred about it when your rivals are watching for your soft spots. Machiavelli saw this in every court, every council, every alliance that rotted from within. He knew that affection was a currency people spent cheaply, promising loyalty they had no intention to honor. Because it's easy to tell a leader you love him. It costs nothing. And once he believes it, you can slip inside his defenses and take everything. Love makes you predictable. It reveals your patterns. It shows what you care about, what you can't bear to lose. And when people know what you can't bear to lose, they have already won half the battle. Machiavelli was not a cynic for the sake of bitterness. He was a realist. He watched powerful men trade their empires for affection. He watched generals lose wars because they were desperate to be loved by their soldiers. He watched rulers tolerate betrayal because they feared appearing cruel to those they once called friends. Love, he realized, is the opiate of the powerful. It numbs their instincts. It makes them sentimental when they should be strategic. It invites them to forget that politics, at its core, is a contest of wills, not a gathering of hearts. He wrote that it is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both. Because fear can be maintained by the careful balance of power and consequence. Love cannot. It evaporates the moment your power wanes. People will love you while you are useful to them, while your favor advances their interests, while your smile signals their place in your orbit. But when fortune shifts, when your influence fades, their love will vanish faster than you can imagine. And the man who relied on it will be left naked, wondering how all his devotion earned nothing in return. Love makes you predictable because it trains you to expect reciprocity. You believe that if you are loyal, others will be loyal. That if you are generous, others will remember your generosity. That if you care, others will care back. But Machiavelli understood that this is not how power works. Power does not live in the realm of fairness. It lives in the realm of leverage. And love is the easiest leverage to exploit. Because people will do anything to keep it. They will sacrifice their judgment, their interests, even their own survival, just to preserve the illusion that someone loves them. And in that desperation, history they become pliable. Repeated. Kings who pardoned traitors because they once called them brothers. Commanders who spared enemies because they had shared laughter in better times. Presidents who ignored betrayal because they believed their inner circle truly cared for them. They all learned too late that love is a fragile shield. It cracks under the weight of ambition. It collapses when envy or fear intrudes. Machiavelli believed that affection is never guaranteed, no matter how sincerely it is pledged. And if you base your power on something that can evaporate overnight, you are already defeated. The truth is, love can be faked. It can be performed. People will act devoted while it suits their purposes. They will rehearse every gesture of loyalty, every word of affection, every promise of faithfulness. And if you are the kind of leader who believes these performances, you will not see the betrayal until it is too late. Because by then, you have revealed everything about yourself. You have shown them which flattery you crave. You have taught them how to manipulate you. And they will use that knowledge with precision. Machiavelli's genius was that he did not simply condemn love. He explained how it could be used. He knew that people hunger for affection. They want to be recognized, appreciated, adored. And if you can project that you love them, even if you do not, you will gain influence over their hearts. You will shape their perception of you as a benefactor. You will inspire loyalty without having to earn it with deeds. But he also warned that you must never confuse this tactic with genuine sentiment. Because the moment you start believing your own performance, you become the fool in your own play. This is why he advised rulers to maintain a certain detachment, to appear compassionate, but remain calculating, to show warmth when it served their interests, but never to let that warmth erode their discipline. He understood that the public wants to see a leader who seems human, but that humanity must be controlled, measured, and never allowed to dictate decisions. Because love is an impulse, and impulses are dangerous to those who hold power. They create inconsistencies. They inspire concessions. They invite those around you to test your boundaries, to see just how far your affection will allow them to go. If you look closely, you will see that the most powerful people rarely lead with love. They lead with respect, with competence, with fear carefully mixed with favor. They understand that affection is a gift you grant sparingly, and only when it serves a purpose. They do not waste it on those who have not proven their loyalty through action. And when loyalty fails, they do not mourn it. They replace it. But you, if you are like most people, have been trained to believe that love is sacred. That to withdraw it is cruelty. That to question it is cynicism. And so you cling to it long after it has become a liability. You tell yourself that relationships are built on trust, that trust requires vulnerability, that vulnerability is the highest good. Machiavelli would tell you that this is the story your enemies want you to believe. Because the more open you are, the easier you are to read. The more you trust, the simpler you are to betray. And the more you love, the harder it will be to act decisively when someone crosses you. He would tell you that the highest loyalty is to your own position, your own judgment, your own survival. That all other loyalties are contingent. That affection must never blind you to reality. And that the moment you begin to think that love is proof against treachery, you are already vulnerable. Because the people around you are not driven by your ideals. They are driven by their interests. And when those interests shift, so will their hearts. It does not mean you must be loveless. It means you must be vigilant. You can care for others, but care with your eyes open. You can be loyal, but loyal only to those who have proven they deserve it, and even then, never to the point of self-destruction. You can offer affection, but only as a measured act, never as an unexamined compulsion. Because once you allow love to dictate your actions, you have surrendered control. You have allowed sentiment to replace strategy. And you have handed your power to whoever knows how to exploit your heart. This is the essence of Machiavellian wisdom, that power is not compatible with naivete. That to lead effectively, you must see love for what it is. A human impulse that can be both genuine and deceptive. And that you must never assume you can tell the difference simply because it feels real. Feelings are not evidence. They are simply reactions. And in the theater of power, reactions are liabilities. If you want to remain strong, you must learn to love without attachment, to care without surrender, to trust without blindness. And above all, to remember that the people who swear their devotion to you are often doing so because they see advantage in it. The test is not whether they profess love, but whether they prove it when it costs them something. The test is whether they stand by you when your power wanes, when your favor disappears, when there is no more benefit in your approval. Most will not. And if you have built your foundations on their affection, you will be left with nothing. This is why Machiavelli said it is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both. Because fear is reliable. It is predictable. It does not require constant reinforcement. It does not depend on the whims of the heart. Love is fickle and it is fragile. It can inspire greatness, but it can also breed complacency and blindness. And for those who cannot distinguish between genuine affection and calculated performance, love is the most dangerous trap of all. So ask yourself, do you lead with love because it is truly strategic? Or because it flatters your ego? Because it soothes your insecurities? Because it reassures you that you are good and worthy? If it is the latter, then you are not leading. You are seeking validation. And in the realm of power, Those who seek validation will always be at the mercy of those who grant it. Machiavelli would remind you that you have a choice. You can choose to see love as a useful force, one that you can offer or withhold according to what strengthens your position. Or you can let love define you, blind you, and ultimately destroy you. You can believe the stories you have been told, that affection is the highest good, or you can accept the reality he saw so clearly, that love, like any other impulse, must be governed by discipline, by reason, and by an unflinching understanding of human nature. Because in the end, the most dangerous lie you will ever believe is that love alone will protect you. It won't. It will make you feel safe while your enemies map the contours of your weakness. It will make you believe you are unassailable while they gather the means to betray you. And when the illusion shatters, when you see the true face behind the mask of affection, you will understand why Machiavelli warned against it. Not because he despised love, but because he understood its cost. So if you want to lead, if you want to endure, if you want to build something that cannot be toppled by a change of heart, learn to respect love without worshipping it. Use it without being used. Offer it without being owned by it. Because the man who can love without attachment is the man who cannot be manipulated. And that is the man who survives. But what happens when you no longer believe the lie? When you strip away the romantic myths, when you stop seeing love as salvation and begin to see it as a force to be managed, not surrendered to, then you begin to see the world as Machiavelli saw it, not as a battlefield of heroes and villains, but as a chessboard of players and pawns, each one driven by their own advantage, each one willing to say anything to win. This clarity isn't bitterness. It's liberation. Because once you stop chasing affection as proof of your worth, you reclaim your judgment. You stop making decisions based on how they'll make others feel, and you start making decisions based on what secures your position. You become harder to guilt, harder to sway, harder to control. You stop being the kind of person who's easy to shame into submission. Because guilt, too, is a weapon, one that only works on those who confuse emotion with truth. You've probably seen this manipulation play out in your own life. The friend who demands your time, not because they value you, but because they expect your constant emotional availability. The partner who withholds affection as punishment. The coworker who flatters you before undermining your authority. These aren't just personal games. These are miniature power plays. And they work only because you've been conditioned to believe that love and kindness should override judgment. That being cold is always wrong. That detachment means something's broken in you. But Machiavelli would argue the opposite. That detachment means something has finally clicked into place. It means you no longer measure your success by how many people like you. You measure it by how many people respect you. By how effectively you move through the world without being derailed by the emotional needs of others. By how many times you say no when everything in your upbringing tells you to say yes. Because every yes rooted in guilt is a small surrender. And enough of those, added together, become the architecture of your defeat. Machiavelli understood that the desire to be loved is rooted in the fear of being alone. And that fear, if left unchecked, will make you tolerate anything. It will make you stay in bad alliances. It will make you keep traitors close. It will make you excuse behaviors that sabotage you. Because you tell yourself it's better to be surrounded by familiar betrayal than to stand alone in your power. But that's another lie. Because standing alone with clarity is better than standing in a crowd that quietly waits for your fall. The people who rise, truly rise, do so not because they shut off their emotions, but because they master them. They know when to listen to their heart and when to silence it. They don't reject love entirely. They simply refuse to let it dominate their decisions. They treat it like fire, something that can provide warmth or burn you to ash, depending on how closely you hold it. This is what makes Machiavellian strategy so uncomfortable for many. It forces you to accept that emotional purity is not a strength in politics or power, it's a liability. It forces you to admit that love is not a universal good. That sometimes, it's the very thing keeping you from seeing reality as it is. And that to rise above manipulation, you must first confront how easily you've been manipulated by the things you wanted to believe. This doesn't mean becoming cruel. It means becoming sovereign. It means acting from a place of control rather than compulsion. It means asking not just, what do I feel, But also, who benefits from me feeling this? Because often, when you trace your emotions back to their origin, you'll find someone else planted them there for a reason. Machiavelli's insights were not born from theory. They were born from blood. From betrayals in the palaces of Florence. From watching alliances collapse in the shadows. From seeing what men said in public, and what they whispered behind locked doors. He knew that love could exist, yes, but that it was too unstable, too easy to weaponize, to build anything lasting on its foundation alone. And so he advised rulers to admire love, to enjoy it, but never to need it. Because the moment you need love, you become dependent on its supplier. You begin to tailor your behavior not for what is right or strategic, but for what will preserve that affection. You fear rocking the boat. You fear displeasing. You stop leading and start pleasing. And when you do that, you've already ceded power to the people you are trying to keep close. So what, then, is the solution? To never love? To isolate yourself from all connection? That is not strength either. That is fear wearing a mask of toughness. The solution is to love wisely. Selectively. To give affection without letting it bind your judgment. To walk away when love becomes a leash. To choose respect over warmth when the two are in conflict. Because those who love you for your strength will not require your weakness. And those who only love your softness will abandon you the moment you become firm. Real strength is knowing the difference. It's knowing when to open your heart and when to protect it. It's being able to walk away from those who say, if you loved me, you'd do this, because you see the manipulation for what it is. It's building relationships on shared values and mutual benefit, not emotional blackmail. Machiavelli would not tell you to kill love. He would tell you to kill your illusions. To stop expecting love to be pure. To stop believing that people love without conditions. To stop assuming that affection is owed to you forever once given. He would tell you to treat love as a strategic variable, something to monitor, to assess, to wield, but never to idolize. Because those who idolize love will sacrifice anything to protect it, including their dignity, their clarity, and their power. They will abandon what they know is right, just to hold on to someone who no longer respects them. They will lie to themselves just to keep the fantasy alive. And they will call this strength. They will call it devotion. But it is simply fear. Fear of being alone. Fear of facing the world without the emotional armor of another's affection. True strength is not needing that armor. It is building your identity on something firmer than sentiment. On purpose. On principle. On strategy. And yes, even on solitude when necessary. Because solitude, as Machiavelli understood, is where you discover who you are when no one else is pulling your strings. If you want to wield power, not just over others, but over yourself, you must become the kind of person who can stand in that solitude. Who can look at love and say, you are welcome here, but only if you do not demand my blindness. Who can feel deeply but act wisely. Who can give affection, but not lose themselves in it. That is the kind of person no one can manipulate. Because that is the kind of person who chooses love, but never depends on it. So remember this, love is not the problem. Your expectations are. The story you've been told, that love is the answer to everything, that love always redeems, that love never falters, is a fairy tale. And fairy tales are written to comfort children. But Machiavelli did not write for children. He wrote for those who wanted to rule, who wanted to endure, who wanted to see the world not as it should be, but as it is, and master it. You do not need to abandon your heart. You need to command it. You need to make it serve your mission, not sabotage it. You need to treat it as an ally, not as a king. Because the heart that rules you will betray you when it longs for something you cannot afford. But the heart you rule? That is a powerful weapon, loyal, fierce, and never easily turned. In the end, Machiavelli's warning is simple. Love, unchecked, will make you weak. Not because love itself is weakness, but because it clouds the mind, it dulls the senses, and it makes you forget that the world is not governed by feelings. It is governed by power, perception, and action. And those who mistake affection for security will always be vulnerable to those who do not. So lead with clarity. Love with discipline. Guard your affections, and let no one use them to bind you. Because the one who walks beside love, but never bows to it, is the one who survives. The one who cannot be broken. The one who in the end wins.